this meeting to order. And Mark, would you lead us in the pledge of allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. America, we love you.
Okay, do we have any additions, deletions, or corrections to the agenda? Hearing none, can I get a motion to approve the agenda?
Bourne moves to approve the agenda.
Okay, do I hear a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, opposed, none. Approval of the minutes for March 9th. Motion to approve?
Bourne moves to approve the minutes as written for March 9th.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay,
Well done.
opposed?
Thank you.
None. Yeah, that's a really nicely detailed.
Yep.
Sally's hand just went up. Sally?
Oh, yes, Sally?
I just have a few typos that if I can just give them to Corey.
That'd be fine.
he'll fix
Okay.
them.
Thank you, Sally.
Okay, then that's approved with the typos.
Per date,
Correct.
per view, no to not, a few things like that. I don't know that Dave Bouchain's
she get her
name
up
is
right
spelled correctly. I didn't
Bouchot,
know
Bouchot.
Bouchon.
Huh?
And he is not an engineer. He cannot stamp his plans, so that was incorrect.
Interesting.
He's a designer. He is not even a certified architect.
Well, that's nice to know because I was told he was. So. Thank you. Okay. The development, we'll move on to the development proposals for Woodland Station. We kind of had an idea, and it was really sort of came from Tanner and Robert, and I think that it's worth discussing. We'll go into the updates, and then I would ask Tanner to kind of bring it all together, what we're thinking about. So, Al, we'll see. We need the report from the negotiating committee. Murph, do you have anything to say about Michael or any developer?
Okay, so I've been working with Colt Simmons. Colt and his investment group are talking about bringing possibly a brewing school to town. I mean, we have yeast here. A brewing school would be awesome, I think, to attract, because Colorado is number 2 in the nation for brewing and small independent breweries. It doesn't have a brewing school. And so that's one of the things. So I introduced Mike Williams to Colt Simmons because Colt had expressed interest in possibly working with them to place the brewing school down here on the property as part of the development, which he has a large investment group, and they may be able to work together to create some accomplishments.
Good.
Just kind of curious, when you say investment group, what is that?
They work with an SBA bank, and they have people that actually
Do you
have.
actually get to figure out who these people are?
Say again?
Is there a way, would they,
Oh, absolutely, yes. Well, and I'm going to work on getting Colt in here, but I introduced Mike and Colt first so they could talk and see if they, because they're the developers. So let them talk and see if they can reach some sort of agreement on how they can work with each other.
Good.
cool, very good.
Jerry, will you clarify that? Are you talking, are these being recorded?
Yeah, this is
Yes,
being
yep.
recorded.
So there you go.
Are you referring, it's not that you couldn't hear me. Are you referring to the Colt's investors or Mike's investors?
Basically, I was talking about Colt's investors,
Okay.
but any investment group, I'm just a little gun shy, silent investor type approaches and all, and I don't pretend to know it all. I would just like to know if that's something that we can find out ahead of time, so that you know who you're actually dealing with.
That's a great question. What's the protocol? I don't know, maybe Mary Jo or who knows? What is the protocol that the DDA has traditionally done in terms of investors when somebody comes forward? When do you kind of have to have a sense of who the players are?
It usually happens relatively soon. That's why we, Al and who helped you with that? Was it Ellen that helped you with that? Did a financial, just very, Al, you can tell him about it.
That there is a fairly substantial, protocol as they move forward with that. That they've got to be able to show to us, what it is that they're wanting to do, that they have the financial capability of actually carrying through. The idea was to try to weed out those that are wishing to do something, but they do not have the capacity to do such.
Right.
Because we've entertained a large number of those and spent a great deal of time and money, dancing with them. Then we, once we figure out where they're going to go, then we can see what kind of obstructions are involved in that development or in that project. And then maybe we can help remove some of that. Perhaps a very recent definition of that is with Thunder Mountain and the car wash and the coffee kiosk. The big obstacle there was a drainage issue that had to be solved. And it was, and we helped do that.
But that's,
Okay.
I'm talking about the financial.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
talking about when does that play
Yeah.
in?
And it goes through city too, and Sally can kind of help.
No, I was just going to ask, is your application form on your website? It's an application form.
Yeah.
Councilman Zillow.
Mhm. It is, isn't it? Tanner, it is on our
And what we're
website,
looking
isn't
for
it?
on a financial
I don't
standpoint.
think it is.
It
I was
isn't?
on your
Well, we'll
website
have to get it on there.
recently, and there's no invitation to complete an application which documents their financial tracking.
I didn't understand what you're saying there.
There's an application form that Al and Ellen and the board approved about 2 years ago. And I was looking for it on your website and did not see it, but it may be buried somewhere there. Actually, your website's very nice in terms of your role, the law, and those sorts of things.
Okay.
But it's not a website that invites people, investors, to seek more information.
Okay.
Point taken, we'll look into that.
Robert, with regards to the
And-
financial, once their project has been somewhat defined, then we're looking for a demonstration of financial viability. One way of doing that is with a commitment from a financial institution or
Sure.
a
Letter of
demonstration.
intent or
Yeah.
something.
So
Okay.
and what that
All right,
does.
good. We
if a
need to move on
financial-
now because we're going into executive session in about 15 minutes.
What a letter of commitment does with the financial institution tells us if that business plan is viable in their definition. So if a bank or savings and loan or even SBA, because that's financed through a bank too,
Sir.
is a viable project, then they'd be willing to
Okay.
issue a
Al.
letter of commitment.
Al,
Yeah.
sir.
Okay.
President said we need to move on, sir.
Yes.
Thank you.
So,
Thank you, that's good. I got it.
Yeah.
all right, and then we have an update on the temporary plan. We had discussed at the last meeting that we wanted to move on, or that if there wasn't going to be something happening on that property, that we could move forward and would move forward on the existing plan that we did about 6 years ago that the whole community seemed to like, or everyone present, city council, city staff, DDA, the audience participation like that. So I would like to, so I think that we need to continue with that and Tanner was going to look into that, and I'm going to refer to him to talk about this three-pronged approach that we're going to talk to the council about, and that's included in that.
Okay, we're on 5C?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, so this would be part of that approach you just mentioned. 5C is an update on the 2016 temporary use plan. That temporary use plan is one of the documents posted on the website. It was titled the Woodland Station Land Improvement Use and Management Plan and was approved in 2016. That plan called for temporary use of the property after some improvement to improve the property so that it could be utilized for events and other public use. One of the first steps was to grade the property. That plan also called for some access routes to be installed throughout the property, some vegetation, revegetation to stabilize the surface, some additional landscape improvements, feature boulders, etc., perhaps some trees, and depicted a concept that would support events and larger public gatherings. We, after adoption of that plan, did make progress. The property has been graded, largely revegetated, and of course then we found ourselves the defendants in a lawsuit which required reallocation of our time and money, so work there on the property came to a halt.
Okay.
We really haven't accomplished much on that plan since then, although we have planted a few trees. We do have a cog car and a stagecoach, which were not a part of that plan initially, but fit right into it. And I guess that's where we find ourselves today.
Okay. Well, if we move forward with all three of these legs in process, Al working on the adjoining properties to the Woodland Station site, just reaching out, do you want to work with us? Do you want to be part of the plan? Do you want whatever they feel like? And I understand that there is some interest in the Quonset property, and you will talk to him and see if he's interested in working with the DDA on Woodland Station, correct? Okay. So Al will be working on that avenue of the development of the site. And the second one is the Mike Williams. Tanner and Murph will continue working with Mike Williams and trying to encourage him to move forward on his plan with investors. And again, how much is he going to develop? How much does he want? Will this plan that we had 6 years ago fit into what he's doing? Can we modify any of it? But nevertheless, we're going to move forward. And since we don't have a commitment from anyone, we are looking at the 6-year-old plan that we all liked and move forward with that. Now, I'd like to hear some discussion from the board. Tanner?
Okay, if we're on 5D, I do two things.
Okay.
One,
Well, before we get to D, Mary Jo,
Yeah.
I'd like to hear the update from Al. We didn't really hear his update. We heard him talk about finances, but we didn't hear about his update.
Okay, Al. Talk about your update.
I can report at this point that one real estate investor, developer type has backed out because of much of what we've discussed before, that the cost to do a full development of that site is too great for the amount of dirt that they can put into production. I had a very productive, lengthy meeting with Arden Weatherford. It was, very cautious at the very beginning, but by the time we got maybe halfway through, after, discussing, much of what we've discussed here, It ended up as a very warm, cooperative type meeting. And he is willing to cooperate with what goes on in Woodland Station. He was pleased that somebody was reaching out to him from this board. So things went very, very well. He recognizes that, as an example, the drainage flow line is downhill from him.
Yeah,
He recognizes that that's an issue. He was reflected positively on that road design that encompasses partially his property and partially Woodland Station property as that comes through. So as we parted, things were very, very positive. Certainly has an area where we can certainly move forward positively with him.
okay. That's good.
He, I think, is putting the lawsuit behind him and wants to move forward.
Good. That's good news.
So we've got to do that too.
That's good news.
You
Okay,
think he's willing
Thank
to
you.
rejoin the overlay district? No?
Well,
Did he indicate, was he willing to rejoin the overlay district?
we didn't go into a lot of those kinds of details. We did talk about things that we need to do to repackage that property so as to make it market interesting. And he agrees too. So his plans for the property, I think are still pretty consistent with what he's had in the past and is willing to cooperate.
okay,
And that's the big key word,
yeah,
is he wants to cooperate.
good.
Yeah.
Did you talk to any of the other?
No.
Okay, that's fine. Just wondered if
No,
you had.
there's not
Okay.
enough hours in a day for
Yeah.
me. It is.
And now, Murph's got his hand
No,
up.
I'm just gonna say that's a great job. I'm really happy that you were able to help start repairing that bridge. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Did you have any luck with any other,
No.
like finding real estate or or somebody that help market the property
No.
or anything along those
I
lines?
just had
Okay.
one that backed away.
Okay. No.
All
So
right.
that's who back to it was a realtor back to it. So you had talked with three.
A commercial, commercial realtor.
Okay.
Okay, Tanner, you had your hand up.
I was contacted by a Terry Baldwin from here in the community sometime after our last meeting, and then via phone. We had a great conversation. Terry had an idea to express for Woodland Station, and then followed up by leaving this letter and a packet for me at my office. I just want to make the board aware of this, and so I'll run through this letter real fast and pass this packet around. Mr. Coy, I very much appreciated our telephone conversation last week. I'm enclosing some documents about the Levitt Foundation, which can also be viewed on the Foundation's website. I also wanted to follow up with the different ways that a facility like this could be beneficial to all Woodland Park community members and business owners. The venue would be a gathering spot for community members and community events with Pikes Peak as backdrop. It would bring business to the downtown businesses because it is within walking distance to all businesses in the downtown corridor, including restaurants, hotels, campgrounds, bars, and other establishments. Traffic for big events could be managed with shuttles to and from the Walmart parking lot. Concessions could be provided by area food trucks. Restrooms for large events could be porta potties. The concert pavilion could be used for concerts, symphony events, and other community ceremonies and events. There are plenty of local bands and musicians in Woodland Park and in the state of Colorado who would be interested in the creation of this venue. There are also management companies like Avant-Garde who do development, management, and bookings. Permanent seating would not be necessary as attendees could bring lawn chairs, blankets, and events needing seating could rent or bring in folding chairs. The farmers market and craft fairs during the summer months could be held on the property, allowing for expansion of those events. As you can see in the enclosed paperwork, the project could be funded by sponsors, donors, grants, membership fees, and concessions. In the early development of the pavilion project, there may be no need for any sort of mitigation of the soil, as there would not be any enclosed structures. The land would have to be excavated to create tiers. The lawn would would need seeded with Colorado-friendly grass. Sidewalks would be a nice addition. In summary, this idea strikes me and other community members I have spoken with about the idea as a win-win solution for the DDA land that needs to be developed. I'm interested in offering whatever assistance I might be in moving this idea forward. Someone on DDA needs to spearhead the gathering of information about what it would take to bring this venue to fruition, including costs of plans, building, landscaping, etc., and develop a presentation for City Council. Thank you again for your time and consideration, Terry Baldwin. The venue itself is a concert venue by the Levitt Foundation. It's known as the Levitt Pavilion Denver, being heralded as the centerpiece to Ruby Hill Park's revitalization, an expansive yet underused 83-acre park located in southwest Denver, etc. I will go ahead and pass this around so you guys can
Okay.
take a look.
Which city's in?
Do you think,
Which city's in? Southwest Denver, what city's in?
Well, that's in southwest Denver. I'm not sure where. I haven't read through all of that yet.
Okay.
It's really the idea, the concept that is most relevant to what's
Yeah.
being proposed. So,
did you tell, are you going to tell Mike about her?
sure, I can provide this to
Oh, it's a she.
Terry.
Yeah, I would say do and see how that, because he's talked about some concert venue thing in his development too. So, good. Is that good with the board, Merv?
No, absolutely. One of the things, music draws people, and having a small events. And I've had my tavern manager asking me and begging me that she can set up a concert series for Sunday afternoons through the summer. And because Sunday afternoons are a little bit slow for us, and that would actually bring people in. And I would set up a stage out back, up on the parking lot, and make sure that we were done before sunset. Well, actually by 7 o'clock, because that's when we close on Sundays. But nonetheless, we've seen the 4th of July. We see the events bring people. And after this last 2 years, we need to start getting people back together to, not be so socially distant.
Yeah. Any other comments on this three-leg proposition to City Council? Jerry?
Did we, as a committee, endorse, embrace this exterior woodland station concept where we're inviting everybody in? I feel that our job is, as the DDA board, is to take care of Woodland Station. And I don't think it's our job to be reaching out to the extraneous entities. Our job is to take care of Woodland Station. So redesigning everything and incorporating everybody else is not necessarily, I think, our mission,
Well, that would fit in the three-leg plan we have. Hopefully one of these options will work. Tanner, you have something to say on that?
Well, you've mentioned this three-legged plan, three-pronged approach. We've talked about this a number of times. It's come up in council a couple of times, and that's the next topic I wanted to discuss under this item as far as development proposals. I wanted to maybe further clarify
Please do.
what that looks like. I've been thinking a lot on this, and it seems to me that we are currently engaged in several activities regarding Woodland Station. We have been actively negotiating with Mr. Williams and Company. There are concept plans there. I'm going to talk a little more about that here in just a moment. Al has been working on some other ideas for how to better prepare the land for sale and development. And we also have this 2016 temporary use plan that has been partially executed and then stopped. So these three different components seem to be in activity simultaneously. And instead of treating each of them so independently and perhaps approaching the property in the somewhat disjointed way, it might behoove us to recognize these three things and capture them under one roof, if you will, somehow as one plan of approach to the property that is multi-pronged. So that first component, as I see it, is cultivating the current interests in the property. If there are currently, if there are interested parties in the property, which there are, that we recognize them as a priority and continue to do all that we can to facilitate that interest and further it and move toward the development of the site. That's our duty. And Mr. Williams seems to be a very upfront and honest businessman who has some good ideas and has made some good progress. Although progress has been very slow, it has been made. And so also, and on this note, while we're speaking of this, what I'll call component one of this plan, I want to mention some of the items that have been accomplished, some of the progress, if you will, to date, as that's been asked about by members of the community, and I know they're interested council members in what has happened thus far. So along those lines of progress here on component one, we established a committee to negotiate with the developer and have actively negotiated with them through a number of meetings, answering their questions, giving them whatever advice we could, and facilitating their interest. We have researched various properties in Woodland Park, other similar pieces of land, to determine fair values for Woodland Station. And we've communicated that to the developer and reached, I won't say an outright agreement, but an understanding, a mutual understanding as to an approximate value of the property. We have provided numerous documents about the property, from surveys and to preliminary plat for the land, soil analysis and traffic studies, and prior plans and concepts, architecture and design guidelines, the requirements that are captured in the agreement between the DDA and the city. All of these things have been provided to the developer for their review and use. We have reviewed all of their proposed uses, all their ideas, all their thoughts, all their proposed business models for the land, and discussed those with them. We have approved all of their uses. We provided the TIF application that was discussed earlier, give them this extensive multi-page document intended to glean more information from them and formalize their application and submittal to the DDA to proceed. We funded professional drawings to capture their concept in the most professional manner that could be communicated to not only the board, but the council and the community at large. John Romero and NES drew those drawings. We still have them. Those were presented, reviewed, approved by this board. We even drafted, reviewed, and then approved, and then submitted to them an exclusive negotiating agreement that was intended to give that party some protection as they move forward with their plans, knowing that they can spend some money, some more resource in developing their plans without fear that we would turn to the next person that pops along with a good idea. That document rests in their court. We've not seen any draft or comments or anything come back to us, but we did our part where that's concerned. And then with Ms. Riley's help, even facilitated a meeting with SEH Design Build that included some board members from here, city staff, the design build firm, SEH, and Mr. Williams. And I'm not sure who else attended, but I'd say, and what I'm offering up is that we consider this, all of these things, the DDA board doing its part to meet or exceed its obligation in facilitating the developer interest. And I, for one, have very few thoughts on, almost no thoughts on, what more to do to prompt them to move forward without putting us into a leadership role with regard to the development, which is a role that I shy away from. I don't think it's the public body's rightful role. That development is to be a privately owned and operated development for the most part, and needs to be led by the private parties, with our role being to facilitate and to support. And in that way, I think we've accomplished all that we really can. If there are other things to do there, we need to determine that and continue our work. And what I'm suggesting is that as part of this 3-component plan, we continue to maintain cultivating that developer interest as a top priority. The second component in that plan is what Al has brought forward to the board. The ideas that he's been able to generate in terms of better preparing the property for marketing and sale and development. If there are indeed things that we can do to facilitate that, then we need to be looking at them. And Al's brought that forward. Al's done some work on it, and where that's concerned, I think we continue the work and see what Al can bring back to the board for consideration in terms of additional steps that could be taken to prepare that land for development. And then the third component of this plan, third component of one plan, is temporary use. In the meantime, until component number 1 yields some contract on the property, or component number 2 yields some contract on the property, what do we do with this asset? It's a real estate asset, it's on our books, and yet it sits at the heart of downtown, somewhat blighted still, and not in use. It has a variety of uses as open space, and we've discussed this as an outdoor venue. Truck and RV parking is just one of the many uses we've talked about. In fact, yesterday, while over on site, by the way, I met with some members of Manitou Springs yesterday. Council member, their mayor pro tem, their planning director, I believe, and someone from their public works department. They're interested in our COG car and what our experience with that car has been, as they're dealing with a couple of cars themselves and contemplating the futures for those vehicles. So anyway, I was there discussing that with them, and while there, I watched as a large RV pulled onto the Woodland Station property, pulled itself around in a big arcing circle, and parked. Shortly thereafter, another smaller vehicle, I think it was a Jeep Compass or something, pulled up next to it and parked. People got out and proceeded to walk into town. I did not watch where they went or what they did. I took a couple pictures because right before my eyes, the property was being used for RV parking while people, from that vehicle entered the downtown. So anyway, in order for our community to capitalize on this asset, to realize any value from it, I suggest that this third component of the plan be treated as one of the priorities, and that we make more progress there. In order to make more progress there, it is likely we would need to expend some funds, perhaps some soil, perhaps some more seed. We have feature boulders donated by the mine. We have asphalt millings from Park Street that are all in storage at the city's storage site, I guess, stockpile in the stockyard. There's some low-hanging fruit there, but it may cost some money. And if we're to make this a priority and make any progress on this component of the plan, that will become an issue. The money that is in our budget now for Woodland Station improvements, I can tell you, was approved by a council with the understanding that it would be used for component number 1 of this plan, not component number 3. And although that line item is Woodland Station improvements and that money is approved, I'm suggesting that if we are to attempt to expend any funds as we pursue component number 3, that we do so with the support of the council and not until we have that support. We want to work together with the city council. We would like the city staff's support as well, as they are in possession of some of our materials. They will have to review and approve some of our plans and what we want to do. And we need, if we are going to do anything with this component, we need to do it collaboratively. So therein lies a challenge.
Mary Jo?
Marty had her hand up, and then Robert.
Go
Yes.
Thank you. I just feel this is important. Thank you for bringing that up, because I have had a number of individuals request whether that property would be available for community events this summer while you guys were negotiating this. I've had sculptors approach me, and I have their, I'm sorry I didn't bring it this morning, some literature about that, to create a sculpture park. They have one out in eastern Colorado, and they have created a destination in that town. Nothing was there. They had a park. A sculptor happened to move to the community and said, I have a bunch of sculptures, could I just put them out there? People now from Denver and all over drive to that small town in eastern Colorado just to see the sculptures. So when we talk about not being a destination, they've created a destination out of basically nothing. And so if we were to do something like that, during the interim, you could have any kind of public event there in the midst of the sculpture, and as they sell them, of course, replace them, whatever. But secondly, and this is very important, there's a lot of people who use that for a lot of reasons. Unfortunately, one of the biggest ones is to walk their dogs, and there is no facilities over there to keep up with the waste, and so there's so much dog poo over there that a lot of people won't go over there now, won't walk it, won't anything, and I really think that that's an important thing that the board needs to address, to clean that up, especially for this coming summer, because us as the business owners downtown rely on that space as people, they do pull in there to walk their dog, to use the restrooms, to park their RVs and all that. I think that it would be due to this board to make sure that at least gets taken care of, possibly put the posts with the bags, because that's important right now.
Good point. Didn't realize that was a problem. Robert?
Well, before I come to the point I was making about that, back to the dog deal. I'm also serve on the Main Street Board, and Dola was talking about how up in, I think it's Longmont, the head of Dola, I think that's the Main Street he's part of. He said that Main Street and the DDA are working very successfully together in their town. And so I asked him to give some examples of how that was. And so he talked about some small frontage remodels or whatever, or renovations, painting, things like that. But working with the Main Street for signage and for the dog dispensers could be a great way to start to bring together some of this cooperation between organizations in the community. So on that point. But the second point you brought up, and I totally agree, is, Tanner, what you're talking about, that cooperation, the cooperation between the council, the DDA, the staff, to make this happen, to make this property ready for events to come, for, to put it out there for people to say, hey, we got this open space for now, It might not always be here. It's not a temporary, it's not a permanent solution, but it's a really viable temporary solution. If we can get the grass planted, things mobilized sooner rather than later, we can actually be in a I mean, to me, it's the best idea that I can see while this is still incubating. Because we're not in control of what Mike Williams is going to do, when he's going to do it, if he's going to do it. We're not in control of where the real estate the promotion of this property is going to go. But if we stage it like this and make it look like, oh wow, look what's happening here, you know, it's no longer a blighted area. For a small amount of money, we can get some things done on it. And I just think that timing on this is really important. So as we move forward, I think that even though, Jerry, we're kind of hamstrung in terms of what we can do as a DDA to cause development, we can certainly stage it in such a way that it inspires that. So
I think there'll be a lot of good energy there will help the development of it, and I think that would be good energy. Murphy, you had your hand up?
Thank you, Mary Jo. This is very serendipitous. This is awesome. Okay. Mike Williams was talking about putting a music venue down there. And, of course, that would be expense to the development part. Okay? Anybody here ever see a Grateful Dead concert? You will see those people again and again and again and again and again. They follow their bands. Okay? There are people, they are trust fund babies that have nothing better to do than to follow a band for half their life. Okay? These guys actually build the venue. Okay? That's what I would call teamwork. One of those very, very important things. I've always had a saying, lead, follower, get the hell out of the way. Okay? You've got to have teamwork. And this is one of the worst towns I've ever seen for working together. Okay? At the end of the day, I'm going to throw out an example out here. By working together. I made an offer to an individual. I'm looking at a new line of work and product. And I made an offer to an individual. He'd already done the legwork. And I was going to offer him $60,000. I was going to foot the bill, okay, to purchase this product. And I was going to take this product, and we were going to take it down, and we were going to sell it, and it was going to be gone in 2 days. He was going to make $20,000. His partner was going to make $20,000. I would make $20,000 in a 2-day period, okay? However, that individual said, but I need that money to further my investment, and so I'm offering you a 10% return on your investment of $60,000. What did I say?
No.
Exactly. I said no.
Yeah.
All right? I've already found a new supplier, and I'm getting ready to make 3 times that much money. Okay? Off the deal. Bottom line is, without teamwork, we are nothing. And we will continue to be nothing until such time. But this right here, Colt Simmons, he approached me. He asked me to be part of his beer brewing council. And then he said, well, maybe I might be able to work on the DDA or approach the DDA on this. I said, Colt, on that note, yes, I'm going to introduce you to Mike Williams. He is the developer. And I think you guys might be able to work together. So the network, okay, being able to get DOLA to come in here, 25% sponsors, 25% donors, 25% grants, and 25% concessions. Yeah, I'm thinking that there's a possibility of teamwork. These guys could put in the music venue. Yep. Mike Williams can put in his food stores. Colt Simmons can possibly develop the lower end with his investment group. Okay, and if they decide to, I'm sure they will come and lay out the investments. They told me who they all are, Jerry. I am inundated with stuff, and I don't remember those names at the moment. But he actually has a bank that specializes in SBA loans for what they're talking about. And at the end of the day, Tanner, you started it, the teamwork thing, getting all 3 items, and we've all got to work together. So if we don't, we're never going to see this happen.
And that's why we have to hopefully approach City Council and get
And I'm hoping City Council will help us
and work with us
and make this a more lucrative and viable town.
Okay, Marty, you had your hand up.
Yeah, so in 2 points. First of all, with teamwork, if you look into any of the Colorado the Great Outdoors Colorado grant. Anything that you want to give a grant to improve that, you have to have collaboration with the city. They have to be part of and approve it to receive those funds. And so it's imperative that this board be able to work with the city in finding the plan. Secondly, a number of years ago, I went to the Colorado Governor's Conference, and all the small towns, all the Colorado small high mountain towns, were clamoring for a place downtown to hold events, because events bring outside money to the vendors, to the retail places that we don't have. Our small community, once they have kind of bought what they were going to buy, we rely on outside money to continue the retail process. And so with each event, and as those events differ, it brings a different group every time. And so that's important for us in the downtown district, that we have something that can do that. These mountain houses, I'm sure everybody's been to Breckenridge. They are trying to utilize any space that they have. They've taken whatever they can to hold those events because they're so important. Lions had a music venue put in, and they are doing amazing things. And it's just outside of town. And so we have an unbelievable asset right in the middle of this town, in the heart of this town, that we really don't have the center. Memorial Park is nice. First, it doesn't have Highway 24 visibility, so it's hard to see if there's anything there. Secondly, that's kind of our town's park. That's where we go. You put too many people on that, it is going to destroy the grass. It's going to put too much pressure on that land. So right now, while this land is open, we have a perfect opportunity to have events to support not just the downtown businesses, but the entire business community of Woodland Park. And so I think it would be advantageous for this entire community for the DDA to find out how to work with the city and have that wild no development is being done there to do at least improvements to support the business community.
Thank you. That's good.
I think the other part of working together is utilize everybody. You utilize the Keep Woodland Park Beautiful. You utilize the Main Street. You all get together with one common goal, and that's to make Woodland Park a better place.
Thank
and
you.
If people are not willing to go that direction, well, we'll figure out somebody else that'll help us.
Yeah.
And you just go forward.
Thank you, Vicki. Yeah, and I think this is very important, this collaboration. We're running out of time here. I would like to move on, and we'll carry on this discussion in executive session for the last part of it, because it's a contractual thing. I'd like to open it up for general discussion for the rest of the audience. Rusty?
It's all being recorded and you can't hear us.
You bet.
And I just want to know why I'm here is by invitation of Robert. He had invited me to come here to follow up on a question that actually it's a response to an open letter that was sent to, I don't know how widely it was sent, but I was called out and Jim Papp was called out on our $30,000 vote. I'm not sure if you're aware of that and have been prepped, but you spent a great deal of time, and I appreciate, Mr. Coy Tanner, you've given me those bullet points because I was challenged to find out, where is the progress? What progress have we made? Because that $30,000 I was against initially, I think you all know that, and it was because of a conversation I had with Val Carr when he was with us that led to a conversation with Mr. Coy directly, and hopefully you will, assure them that I came with an open mind, and I listened to everything you said, and I changed my vote, and I supported the $30,000. Mr. Papp was very clear. We wanted to see some significant progress by the end of March. So when March came and gone, surprisingly, one of my backers when I ran for election called me on it in a public letter. So thank you for addressing it. I wrote down all of those things. I do have just a couple questions more. They're questions, I know this is public comment, so I don't know if you're able to respond to my questions. If not, we can find way of doing it, if it's okay with you, Mary Jo.
Yes.
The $30,000 is still in the bank, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And as of right now, it's not intended to be used for anything other than the stated reason, which was to show kind of good faith to the, I'm going to call it the Williams project, that we had that money set aside to do whatever you had stated. It was in the executive session, so I didn't bore down too much how it was to be used, but it's still there, kind of earmarked for that purpose at this point in time, correct?
That is my understanding.
Okay. Then my comment would be, when you look at that, when you're talking about your third point, and I think that's what you're probably going to move to in your executive session, is to think about making sure that money, because I think the intent was to make it always available for that until it's changed, and try not to use it that would limit or constrain the design plan or vision of Mr. Williams or any other developer at this point in time. Okay? And I think you'd almost have to be brain dead not to know what the perception has been, that there's been intentional decisions and actions by your body to stop development. I think you need to be aware to change that perception. Make sure that all of your actions are showing everybody that you really do want to see development by a developer. Okay, and I think it's great that you met with Mr. Weatherford. I was introduced to him by your daughter, and I think he's got some interesting ideas. I know there's a lot of bad blood, we all know that, but I do think if we could step back and at least entertain some of his thoughts, it would be a really good thing, and you probably would have some surprising support from the most unlikely places on city council. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rusty.
Anyone else from the audience? Sally?
I noticed in your minutes that there was a desire to put together the germane issues regarding the concerns of development at Woodland Station. This has been done, so I'll hand this out as 2 sheets. I put this together a couple of years ago in order to help the DDA move off the mark, and so the issues, just 2 pages each, pass them around please.
2 pages.
2 pages. So this little chart is the issues and their topics dealing with drainage and environmental, zoning, surrounding uses, topography, utilities, and then page number 2 is just a short ideas that came out of a citizen charrette that we had with the Citizens Academy. So it identifies the challenges and opportunities and possible options and solutions. So this has been shared with Mr. Williams. You keep calling him a developer. I don't see him as a developer. So, and your middle name is development. You are the Downtown Development Authority. So the meetings with SEH have been very interesting. They're a high-powered quality consultant that understands development within an authority, a TIB arrangement. They have modeling capability to know whether what is being built is going to support the infrastructure through the tax development. So when you consider your executive session discussion, SEH is about to provide a proposal to the DDA to help assist you in the development of this property. So just remember, development is your middle name.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you for putting this
Thank
together,
you.
Sally, because I was going to shadow your door to do just this. So thank
Okay.
you. I'm glad you did.
Thank you, Sally. Anything else?
Yeah.
And just know, the city planning department and city staff is here to help you. We all want to see this property developed. I've been here
Yep.
in the planning department for 20 years. It was a goal 20 years ago. And it was actually a goal in the 1991 downtown plan that was put together by the Planning Commission and Barbara Cole. I just reviewed those action items. This was one of those action items to create a mixed-use development for Woodland Station downtown. That was in 1991.
I know.
These visions have been in place.
Yes.
And then lastly, the comprehensive plan is moving nicely along with 8 subcommittees working on various aspects of the existing plan, as well as adding other goals, objectives, and actions. There is a town hall next Wednesday, 6 p.m. You can either attend in person for the first 75 people at the Cultural Center. It's on the 14th. Or you can join via Zoom, via the website. It's very easy to get into these Zoom meetings through the city's website. So join us. Our consultants are going to be asking questions of the community, and you'll use your smartphone. Those questions will be compiled right then, so you'll see the feedback with the big topics in our community. If you would like a question asked about Woodland Station or the DDA's role in the community, we can ask that question as well.
Okay.
There are also questionnaires on our comp plan website. So far, we've had 2 questionnaires. They're still open. So go ask. The next questionnaire will be on parks, trails, and open space,
Okay.
and resiliency. So let me know how I can help you. But SEH is going to have a proposal to you here very shortly.
That's good.
Awesome.
Good.
What was the date and time of that town hall again?
Next
14th.
Wednesday,
Wednesday.
14th, 6 p.m., 6 to 8. Thank you.
Thank you, Sally. Marty?
And I just want to remind this board that the purpose of the DDA was to give voice to the business and property owners in the downtown district. This is our one shot. This is not run by the city. This is not about the bigger government. This is about the downtown area. And to remind that as a business owner, that I felt for years the DDA did not represent businesses. There was an inordinate amount of bankers on it, and no offense, but I don't believe that bankers represent business. They didn't own the property and they didn't own the businesses. And so I think that we need to be reminded that this is about supporting business downtown to revitalize our downtown, whatever that is. It's not necessarily making a mega structure on this property. It's about finding out what the business owners and those landowners in the downtown district, give them a voice to help develop their area. That's the point. And so I want this board to reflect on that, because I have been one of the biggest critics of this board and how it never moved forward. The directors, it never seemed to get any progress, but I think the businesses weren't represented for a long time. So that's my opinion, and I want to remind the board that's really the point of this.
Thank you. Thank you. Good reminder. Okay. If there's no more general discussion, board, do you have anything you want to say before we go into executive session?
I want a clarification if I can. We got an email saying that next on the 15th that council is has at least penciled in that they're having a presentation by the DDA. So did you get that? Rusty, did you get that?
I got that.
Yeah.
I reached
So
out to-
our,
yeah.
can I, am I under the understanding that we're going into executive session, and out of that we're having something that is being presented, or do you want to, what's going to be presented?
Yes.
So we have some idea of what's going to council. Can you embellish on that? Give us some idea.
Tanner?
Well, we have 2 council members present, and if council has penciled in something for DDA and it was not at specifically our request, what was it for?
Can you weigh in on that?
What
Rusty?
is the council's wish?
Robert, did you get the morning email from Suzanne?
Today?
Just
No.
This morning?
No.
Well, there's confusion. Robert did accurately state, an item showed up on the agenda, and it was requested by Hillary, Jim, and Robert, is what was stated in the email. And I went back to Suzanne and asked, have we mixed something up? Because I wanted to simply have the status of the project. In other words, a response for the citizen's letter to Jim and I, where we said, look, you're being called on that 30K. Somehow I think it might have gotten twisted around that we were asking for a presentation. She said, no, there's a different topic. I then reached out to Hillary, because she's one of the 3 people asking for the meeting in Suzanne's email, and Hillary said, I didn't ask for a meeting. Today's email, and you'll see it in a second, I think there is confusion. It's, I think, a follow-on to my request to have a presentation where what you just covered, and I took down all those bullets. It's just have someone from the DDA come in and respond to the letter so that, Jim and I, who, were called out, have top cover. So that I think is the purpose of that agenda item, Robert. I'm going to try to get clarification from Suzanne. Is there some confusion?
All right, so then if that is the case, before we go into executive session, I guess I just want to ask, can you determine between yourselves who can present this idea to clarify, one, the $30,000 earmarked funds and this 3-pronged approach, to clarify it to council what the DDA is doing, exactly what this whole meeting has been about. Just summarize that and give that some clarity so that there's, because sounds to me that can be an important part of this collaboration and cooperation we want to see between city employees, city council, the DDA, Main Street, and all the other different organizations. So.
Okay. Vicki had her hand up.
Not to sound stupid, but this is a DDA meeting, but we have no idea what was said in the letter.
Right, that's what I meant to Robert.
This is a technical agenda issue. I want, before we go into a private meeting, that DDA is aware that they're on the agenda and that the topic of that is what we've been talking about. And so can we talk about who's going to represent or what that's going to look like? Because otherwise we're going to go into executive session and then nothing will be decided amongst ourselves, and I want you to know that that's an agenda point that's on.
Okay, Murph, and then Marty.
Make a motion that Tanner prepares and presents the, seeing as you are extremely eloquent, sir, and you did an outstanding job, and so I would like to volunteer you, if you would be so kind as to accept, to present that to the city council.
Could I modify your motion? Because you have 3 prongs.
Tanner didn't accept yet.
I know, well, you haven't made it all. I wanted to catch you. You have a 3-pronged approach, right?
Mm-hmm.
Al is part of that, Tanner's part of that, and perhaps even you're part of that, or maybe Mary Jo's part of that. So I would suggest you actually each present on your part. Just an idea, so go ahead.
Okay, and Marty has a question, and
So
Tanner.
just to clarify here, I don't think that we, as the audience, got clarification on the letter. Who wrote the letter? Where does the letter come from? What did the letter say?
An open record.
That's
requirement.
beyond
Do
the
we-
scope of
That,
our meeting.
yeah, that goes to council. It's really more about council.
that's operating in the dark to me.
Yeah, to me, it's not
Yeah.
for open record.
And do we need to place an open records request, or are we going to receive that letter? Because it's about DDA, so we cannot effectively address said subjects if we don't know the topic or where they're coming from.
And they can't vote on anything.
That's like being told.
Was that forwarded to the board?
Yes.
Tanner needs to talk because it was forwarded
Okay, all
to the
right,
board.
we're good.
Let's back up a second.
Okay.
I described a single plan consisting of multiple components. I didn't record any general consensus of the board that that's acceptable, that is the board's position right now. I know I'm thinking maybe a bit formally and technically, but we have different things happening right now sort of independently of each other, and I'm simply trying to capture all this under a more organized plan so that we can describe to the council, we can describe to the community at large what our various efforts are and how they relate to each other, what the goals are, etc. So that's what I tried to lay out. And before going to council, if it's myself or really anybody else, I think we should have at least some kind of consensus as to whether or not that represents our position and our approach moving forward.
Well, if
Okay,
I might
well-
say, we did, if Corey looks in the notes, we had a motion on this very three-pronged approach 3 meetings ago.
Not the three-prong, it was just
It was
on,
two. At
It was-
that point,
yes.
it was determined to be a two-pronged approach.
yes.
It was putting the property up for sale.
Correct.
Working with the vendor, the potential investor we have now, and Tanner was gonna dust off the PDF of the 2016. Those 3 points were in it. It's in the notes of three
Okay.
meetings ago.
The motion was a two-part motion, but we can,
But we kind of, there was 2 different components. We agreed to do the 6 year ago dust off, and then the other 2 was a different motion
Okay.
from that.
I
So
stand
now we're
corrected.
combining it.
Yeah.
And I'd like to say before it goes on, one thing about the letter. The letter was, a person has questioned city council on approving $30,000, and she wants to know where that $30,000 went and what it was spent on. Well, it hasn't been spent, so.
Right, I was going to suggest, since you may not have a position on all 3 prongs, the letter was very specific. You may want to just hit and address that one point, account for the 30K, just like you did.
Yeah.
And then once you figure out whether you're looking forward to the 3-pronged approach and all of that, come back later on.
We have a time issue.
We have a time issue, so we need to move on from this, and we'll come out of executive session, and then we'll decide who goes and presents what. I'm going to be gone the 11th through the 18th, so I won't be here for that council meeting. But anyway, let's go into executive session. Yes, Murph?
Make a motion that we move to executive session.
Okay, I'm going to read this. We'll take a little bit of a break and move into executive session. Adjourn for executive session for the purpose of determining positions relative for matters involving development projects within the Woodland Station Downtown Development Authority District regarding A, determining the position relative matters that may subject to negotiation and develop to CRS 24-6-402-4E. Okay, we'll take a 5-minute break and go into executive session. Thank you all for coming.
Is that a motion?
do we need a second?
Oh, we have a second. We have a motion on the table to go into executive session. Do I hear a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Move out, troops.
All those opposed? I'm doing fast here.
I believe that Murph made the original motion for Tanner to prepare and present to council on April 15th. Robert, you asked for an adjustment that presentation would include discussion of the 3-pronged approach that we've been discussing, and that presentation would then include the 3 presenters. I think you identified Tanner, Mary Jo, and Al as the...
Or no,
And
she can't.
no, I'm going to be out of town.
Okay, that's right,
So
okay.
Murph
So
and
Murph-
Al and Tanner.
Murph, Al Bourne, PC. Then there was some discussion of whether or not we needed an open records request to procure the letter in question. Tanner clarified that that letter had been forwarded to the board. Tanner went on to clarify that your understanding was that you had made a presentation of one single plan that had 3 subcomponents rather than 3 separate plans. And at that point, we went into executive session without a second or further discussion.
Why don't you just withdraw that motion and then we'll start over? And then you can make a motion that Tanner and you and Al present this,
Withdraw the motion.
Okay.
and then go ahead, that you present the one plan that has 3 components.
Make a motion that we form our team. Tanner is coordinator, and make sure none of us are sticking our feet in our mouth. But we need to be in agreement on it. Okay, so make a motion that the 3 of us get together and come up with a briefing to present our individual pieces to the city council at the next city council meeting, seeing as we're already penciled in on the board, or on the agenda, on the 15th.
Do I hear a second?
Can
Any
3
confusion?
of you
Do-
get together?
I'll second that.
Okay, now
Um,
discussion.
Okay, and to clarify, as far as getting together, it would be 2 members at a time.
Good, very good point.
So I can talk to Al, we can work on a couple
Just the
things,
2
we can
of
talk
us,
to you. But we can't get together at the same time unless we want to hold an actual meeting.
Yeah.
I'm in agreement with that. We will keep it at,
Okay, so we have a motion on the table, we have a second by Tanner. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Hearing none, that passes, and there will be a presentation. And then at that time, after that presentation, if we need to call a special meeting, you let me know, and we can do it. If not, we'll just wait until May's meeting for an update. Okay?
When are we going to be on tap for that?
April 15th is the council meeting.
April 15th is
Yep.
when we're going to do it, okay.
Okay.
Tax day.
Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
May 15th this year.
I motion to adjourn.
Robert, motion to adjourn. Do I hear a second?
Second.
We have
There was a
two-
lot of
we
hesitation,
have
you
2
guys.
seconds. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
None? Meeting's adjourned.
Tax day has been moved